What's that about? Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. Matt Germain's here, Mark Carben's here, and you're here. We're going to have a good time tonight. Oh my gosh, Matt, what's happening, brother? It's World Series time almost next week.
Yeah, I'm disappointed, Mark. I was hoping the Brewers would be a bigger matchup for the Dodgers. Now, having said that, they haven't been blown out of the water, but I was hoping the Brewers would come out firing and at least score some runs and put some pressure on the Dodgers pitching. But so far, it's a little lackluster, and the Blue Jays are struggling against the Mariners pitching. So it seems like two strong-handed series so far. Hopefully that changes today and tomorrow.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody today about the World Series 35 years ago when you had, what was it, the Cincinnati Reds and the A's. You had Lou Piniella's Reds and you had Tony La Russa's A's, and that World Series only went 4 games. They swiped them out in 4 games. And I was kidding because I always said, well, Marge Schatz probably didn't enjoy that because the money, all of those games was lost. But I don't want to see that happen at this level either, man. Well, let's face it, what? The Dodgers are going home. They've been playing Milwaukee in Milwaukee, and they took 2 games there, and they're going home now.
I said on Blue Sky that nothing the Dodgers do impresses me because it's like watching, the dream team being put together and just hum and hawing through a series. That's why I don't like super teams. I really don't. And that's why they ruin the sport, because they're just like, they're supposed to win. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Let's move on to next year and try it again. And it puts a lull on the win. Now, Dodgers fans will be happy and they'll be elated. And some of the elitists that believe the sport should only be dominated by a few cities and everybody else can eat dirt, those people will be happy. But I like to think that most people want a competitive league and would be much happier if the games were nail biters and really competitive and we went to a 7th game, right? Something like that, or even a 6th. Like I think back to the Rays Dodgers series. That was a good series. There was some fist firing on both sides. Randy Arozarena was having his good times, and Brett Phillips was having a good time, and there was good pitching. There was good defensive plays. It was a highlight reel. Right now, I just don't feel the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, well, when you feel like the team has been bought and they're at a level that's just beyond most other ones can even begin to gather that much talent on one team. Of course, I really thought, Matt, that the Mets would be here when you're talking about Tyler Street's bet for talent. And that didn't happen. I mean, you thought it was going to happen. I mean, it's one of those teams that took a slide toward the end. And
right.
I don't know.
I would love for you to go and sometime in the next 2 weeks, add up the money that the Mets spent on pitching compared to what the Dodgers spent on pitching. It's night and day. I think there's hundreds of millions in difference. So that's where the difference is between those two teams.
I take a lot of money he gave to Soto. I'm sorry, Soto. Juan Soto. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some dollars spent. I mean, maybe could have spread some of that across pitching a little better.
Or not get another first baseman and let Pete Alonso walk. That would have done it as well. Right?
Well, I mean, it looks like that might happen now. Is he opting out? Or are they opting out of him right now?
He opted out. He's looking for 7 years. I think, first basemen have been ruined by Miggy Cabrera and Albert Pujols when it comes to the 10-year pact. So at least Scott Boras is getting the, meter stick down by 3 years. So that's a start. But he's also 1 year older than Albert and Miggy were when they got their big deals. And I think, he might get 6 years. The 6th year might be an option or a mutual option or something of the sort. But I see more of a 5-year deal for a team that's a little bit more desperate and wants to take that next step forward.
Jeez. Well, the thing is, there is a lot of movement this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I'm looking at is well, you're talking about Alonso opting out. I mean, is it right this time of year when all the contracts and such are either coming up and there's either going to be free agents or people can opt out, or they can allow the team, they say, okay, it's been nice working with you, but we're opting out with you or you can opt out with us. So we should see a lot of movement, and we are.
Yep. And you're going to start seeing people put on waivers or try to pass them through waivers. And, and teams are going to start sorting their rosters out for that 40-man roster. So what happens is all those players that were on the 60-day IL
Yeah.
have to be transferred back onto the 40-man. So there's a crunch. Normally you can, some of those are automatics. Sometimes the team has different ambitions than thought they would have, and they keep some players that you're a little bit surprised of. Or they end up coming to a deal where they sign them for a little bit longer than you had expected. So I think Cole Sulser was an example for the Rays last year where they kept him. He's a little bit older reliever, and I was surprised. Anyways, but yeah, there'll be a lot of roster movement within, I don't know, it'll probably kick up in about a week and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, probably once the World Series is done, we'll see it all happen. But I've always, as far as baseball biz on deck, I've always been interested in watching the managers because one thing, we have to get somebody out here to talk about this more. We know the players have Scott Boras or some other agent managing them. And I'd like to learn more about what a lot of these managers who are signing on with teams, do they have agents and who are they and what kind of deals are they working? Or is this just somebody sitting across the table from John Henry at the Red Sox and saying, you know, well, whoever the manager may be, what is it? For instance, just take this to the Moneyball movie. Okay. They have Brad Pitt coming in to see John Henry, and it's just a one-on-one, them talking about, working for him. There's no agent in the room. Now, I realize that's more myth than, with a movie than it is maybe in reality, but it does beg the question. One other thing I neglected to ask or mention is that for him to have talked to John Henry, he had to get approval from his team, if I remember correctly. For a manager to be able to look at another team, he has to ask his boss's permission. So this isn't like you and I. We said, yeah, we're disgruntled with a job and we can go ahead and start looking for jobs elsewhere and still be where we're at. No, these guys, they have to get approval to even talk to another team. But there has been so much movement, Matt. I mean, with managers this year, I'm looking, oh, geez, if this year, okay, Brandon Hyde with the Orioles, May 17th, out. Derek Shelton with the Pirates, May 8th, out. Bud Black with the Rockies, May 11th, out. And there's nothing Bud could have done with what he had with that product. Come on, people. Davey Martinez with the Nationals, out. Bob Melvin with the Giants, more recently, out. Ron Washington, recently as well, out with the Angels. So you're looking at all of these different teams, and you look back toward the beginning. Let's see, we also had who's retiring: Brian Snitker, Bruce Bochy, and Mike Shildt just a couple of days ago with the Padres. Wow.
Yeah. It's a thankless job, Mark.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where the carousel has always existed, right? And I think you're right. The one that comes out to mind when you were talking about the agent part of it and the way the teams have to treat it is when the Rays lost Joe Maddon to the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
They had a big fiasco. The Rays were pretty irate when Joe decided to skip ship and go over there and sign a huge deal. I think it was one of the more significant deals outside of Joe Torre in terms of what they were getting paid at the time. And I would be lying if I remember the amount, but I just remember everybody going, "Oh, for a manager?" Right? And I think there was a penalty that they had to pay where they actually sent a player to the Rays in order to make the quote unquote trade happen
Wow.
and trying to give him compensation for having lost Joe Maddon. So I don't know if Joe Maddon had representation. I do know he probably had a lawyer present when he was negotiating the
Oh, yeah.
deal and checking all the I's and crossing the T's, whether or not you call that person an agent or not. I mean, you pay a lawyer enough that you essentially,
They are an agent.
by that time they know the market well enough that they know what other managers are getting paid. So if they're pushing the bar up, it's because they know the team is desperate to get them on board.
Yeah.
The other one I can think of is when Oakland signed what's his name? The Raiders signed the guy to the 10-year, $100 million deal.
Oh,
What was that one? I can't remember his name.
I can't conjure.
Yeah, and he ended up not even lasting halfway through the deal, and he walked away. He was fired, and he ended up, at home pocketing $50 million, over
Jeez.
the next 5 years. So,
So,
yeah, managers have a thankless job, and they get paid well nowadays for it.
well, and as well they should too. And you talked about Joe Maddon, and he certainly made a difference for that team, didn't he? World Series curses abound were wiped away, and Joe Maddon came in and brought some Rays with him. On top of that, I think Ben Zobrist came over there with him and some others, and made a big difference. And Joe Maddon, man, I've got all the respect in the world for this guy because he was the blend. He was a guy who trusted what he saw in the tools of a player, but he also trusted what he saw with analytics. And he didn't let one overrun the other. He trusted his gut, but at the same time, he was going to be able to uh, make decisions, with the analytics. So I respect him for what he did with that. And it begs the question, though, Matt, looking at Joe Maddon and looking at all of these empty spots, you know, where's Buck Showalter? Where's Joe Maddon? Where's some other guys? Are we going to see them pop up? Because right now there's plenty of openings. And we had Jane Levy here last week, and it was a joy. But we talked about how the evolution of the game, and we talked about managers trusting their gut or trusting analytics. So that was interesting to see, and trying to see with that mindset, what do managers, what do general managers want to see in the manager for their team? Buster Posey's letting Bob Melvin go. Who's he going to come back with? Now, he used to play for Bruce Bochy, I think, and was it maybe back down around 2010, 12, and 14, they won a World Series, So I doubt that Bochy, who's retiring from the Rangers, who knows, maybe he would wind up there. But somebody I was talking with today said, Mark, he's Hall of Fame bound. He doesn't need to go anywhere. And I said, yeah, maybe he is ready to retire. But time and time again, you hear about this being a grind. I want to say more about that in a moment, but do you have any ideas for coaches who are bench coaches right now that you think might be coming into the mix for some of these positions?
I think if you look across the board, they generally tend to go towards teams that have had recent success because everybody's a little bit of a copycat. Um, you know, the Rays are probably less of an attractive option for that just because of they've had two consecutive seasons of failures or perceived failures where people will look at it and go, oh, okay, they'll evaluate it at whatever level. I will say that in a lot of cases, and I heard this during the Yankees series from a reputable source, that the manager does not always get to make the calls.
No.
On players, on who pitching, on a whole bunch of different subjects. And sometimes it comes from above. The Yankees are one of those teams who reportedly were the ones dictating when a pitcher was pulled and when he was going in,
Damn.
when a hitter substituted in, when a hitter substituted out. So, you can look at Aaron Boone and say, yeah, I get it. It's the Yankees. They get to make the call, whatever. But why are you hiring Aaron Boone and why do you have him in that position if you're not going to let him use his instincts to make the call? So looking back at it, though, the same thing applied to the Rays. Kevin Cash will tell you that it was a group decision to pull Blake Snell. It was not just him. It was a consortium of people that decided that it was the time to take him out. So all I'm saying is that managers nowadays, with all the rules and all the pressures and they have, a plethora of pressures and influences and everything else. When you look at Alex Cora, for example, in Boston, right? The things that he's survived over the years is insane. And you talked about John Henry. He's not a pleasant owner to work for. Uh, you know, there's a whole bunch of guys that I know would like to get back in. John Gibbons is one that I've heard on interviews a lot of times who wants to get back into the game. There's bench coaches everywhere that have worked with X-rays or that have worked with the Dodgers or the Cubs that would probably be enticing to a lot of teams. But generally speaking, it's whatever ownership can get that will say yay to the way that they want things to operate. So if they want to be a hands-off ownership, like the Rays' new ownership seems to want to be, right? And they want that front office relationship to be a certain way, that person has to fit that mold. And that's where it starts. And I think that's why Bud Black in Colorado, that system was broken because it was, you know, the ownership dictating what players they got the entire time, and the front office didn't matter.
Yeah.
So at that point, the relationship between the front office and the coaching is broken because there's just frustration all the way through. So I think they're changing that now finally, but they've had to take years and years and years to learn their lesson. Sort of like what the Angels did, right? Their owner was doing the same kind of stuff, and he stepped back now where he's letting things ride out a little bit more. But they've built another kind of relationship where they treated Ron Washington the way we spoke with Jane about. And so who's going to want to step into that job when they saw somebody get thrown under the bus like that? Probably not that many. Or a certain type of person will want to go in, and probably not the one that you want, to be quite honest. It's going to be somebody that is just looking for that opportunity because you can't get it anywhere else. So you may not be the best qualified person, right? Yeah. So you gotta be careful, reaping what you sow.
Oh, brother, isn't that the truth? You talk about Ron Washington. I heard one rumbling, somebody suggesting that Albert Pujols
Mhm.
could come in as the Angels manager. I thought, now that would be energetic to see how that worked out. I mean, he's always been a leader in the game, as a person, as a human being on and off the field. So I would definitely be interested in seeing that. But the other thing is, if you're looking at Joe Maddon or Buck Showalter, are they even interested in coming back to what this game has become from the front office? I mean, you've got some great talent, but are you ready to come back if you think that the landscape has changed so much as far as your role is, what or any manager's role is today compared to 5 years ago?
I think you remember when we talked to Kevin and he was talking about how he's happy where he is in Double A.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of merit to that, right? A lot of times you kind of want to be at the top. You want to be in MLB. You want to have all the pressures, the glory that come with winning, yada yada yada. But let's face it, there's just one team out of 30 that wins it that year, right? Everybody else is a loser. So, so you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. You're putting your family through a lot of things. You're
Yeah.
losing a lot of connections that you otherwise could make, in a community where you might have more stability. So I think I'm hoping that what you'll see is a lot of them take more of an advisory role, get more jobs in AAA, and kind of um, relax it a little bit. Like some of these guys have been worn to the nubs in terms of the year after year after year of pressure.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think it's good to step back once in a while and just relax a little bit.
Well, when we look at the managers and those who are most tenured, if I was having this conversation with you last year, I would say number one, Kevin Cash, most tenured. I think he's about 11 years now. Beneath him, we'd see Dave Roberts,
Mhm.
I don't see him going anywhere. Number three would have been Brian Snicker. He's leaving.
Yeah.
Then number four would have been Arizona Diamondbacks, Torey Lovello. I think he just re-signed a one-year contract with them. But number five was the Rockies with Bud Black. So there's two of those five that are gone. And what is it? You talk about the stress of this job and the level of being able to be at a double A level and probably be the guy who's making all the decisions and not having to keep look over your shoulder or check your phone for a text of something. It has to make a world of difference. Mike Shildt of the Padres just announced 2 days ago that he's leaving the Padres. And the word people talked about the grind, and he said even about having difficulty sleeping and other things. But what he didn't initially say, but he shared later, was the gambling,
Mhm.
not his, but gambling as an institution has impacted him. And how? Well, that's come through death threats, uh, disgruntled fans, and many times people who are spending money with it. I want to come back to him in a minute, but looking back in 2019, the Rays had a situation going on. This comes from Athlon Sports. They have something about fan abuse, and I am reading this. Let's see. Uh, the social media feedback loop makes players and their families directly reachable instantly and anonymously. The legal gambling and see the adds volatility to bad beats and blown parlays. And they say, you can see how this cocktail turns a bad night into a threat in the inbox. So in 2021, a sports gambler was found guilty of sending threatening social media to the players in the Tampa Bay Rays. The gentleman by the name of Benjamin Tucker Patzer of Napa, California, pleaded guilty in Tampa federal court to transmitting threats in interstate or foreign commerce. He was found guilty of having made numerous violent threats in 2019 against athletes and the members, their family members, through anonymous Instagram accounts, and that's interesting in of itself. But he was thinking, okay, so he's been found guilty, and they even found other athletes above and beyond the Rays, college athletes, others, where this guy had done this. Now he had even some saying where he was threatened to entering their the homes and beheading their family members. This Matt, this is the kind of human being this guy is. Now, what amazed me is that sentencing, he basically got probation. He got probation, some community service. Hey, you get some mental health, and I'm always good for getting people for mental health. I think it's an ideal thing needs to be done, but some punitive action, some correctional facility. This guy needed to be spending some time there. You cannot let these people walk.
So I have a lot of thoughts, Mark. I don't think we have enough time on this show, but now sports athletes know how abused women feel. Like, honestly, like
Yeah.
it takes a long time before people take things seriously. And sadly, it usually takes until something violent happens and there's an actual physical crime and it's too late at that point, and the worst has happened. And then eventually, even once that happens, the laws may or may not change. They may change in one community, they may change in that one state. It takes a long time before everything leaks over to be the norm across the board. I
Yeah.
think back to seatbelts in vehicles. It took forever to get that instituted across the board, right? Anyways, the the growth of gambling is definitely one of the biggest evils of the sports empire, and it's changing things for the worse. I really, 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 really don't like it. I think we need to go back to it being illegal or more or harder to do. And I know it'll never happen. But if you go back to just 2022, right? And this is not a long time. You're looking at, the growth of gambling more than doubling from 2022 to what it is now. Now, it's not because wages have doubled from 2022 to now, right? So what it means is that the population, this is just in the United States, so the population of the United States has gotten poorer by double the amount that they had in 2022, because nobody wins in gambling. They made for 1 week, a month, whatever. But the bets are made in a certain way by Vegas because they know that they're getting the best odds. Like that's just the way that things operate. They're not going to give you the best odds. It's just not, good business.
Yeah.
The other thing you have to consider okay, so now you're saying, okay, the money has doubled. So now you have the owner's attention, right? You have Vegas's attention. And who runs Vegas? Is it really upright standing citizens? Is it people who have often been tied to black market crimes? Is it
Hmm.
so you have to consider the Vegas influence across the board in all sports. So, what does that mean? That means when you're sitting in the booth in New York and you're making a call on a certain game, somebody may pick up the phone and call you and say, "You know what? That call that you're about to make a call on may not actually be what you think it is." Right? And then it gets done a certain way. And it's the only thing that makes sense, Mark, because I watch football and I'm telling you right now that the games across the board have been atrocious in terms of refereeing. Okay.
Hmm.
And even the replays, even when everybody's on the same page, yep, okay, it's going to be that call. They go to the review and boom, it comes out the opposite. And everybody's like, how did that happen? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then the key thing that I'm going to say, Mark, is the Kansas City Chiefs lost a game recently where four of the umpires on the field, or sorry, referees on the field were suspended pending a review of the
Holy
work
sh!
that they did on the field because the Chiefs lost. Now, I'm telling you right now, Mark, I've been watching sports for a long time. I don't remember a moment when the NFL decided to suspend referees because they thought the refereeing was so bad. It's been atrocious across the board for decades. This is just known fact, right? So what who made that call to Roger Goodell and said, listen, you're suspending those guys because they cost us a bunch of money?
Mm.
That is where that pressure comes. So the question now is, okay, who is running the leagues? Who and all that pressure that goes into that, it leaks down into the teams, into the players, into the fans. The fans have a lot at stake, and I get it. It's a lot of money. There's a lot of things going on. I just finished watching Rat Race with my daughter. And in Rat Race, Cuba Gooding Jr. made the bad call on the coin flip, and then it cost the cabbie that ends up driving him $20,000 because of the call being blown and yada yada yada, and things turning out the way they did in overtime. And that was so true in that movie. I think back to it, I'm like, it's applicable because if your livelihood, and especially in the economy we're in right now, where people are desperate, Mark, you're just leading them with, it's the
Oh yeah.
carrot and the stick, right? You're adding fuel to the fire, and you're giving them false hope. And so Tristan Casas came out recently and spoke about the pressures that he was facing and how he almost, or well, no, it was Jaron Duran, wasn't it?
I
It was
think
Jaron
so.
Duran. Yeah. And so, you think back to that, you're like, yeah, well, the fans that, were reacting to their own self pressures. And it used to happen in the background for very few people for college basketball. Remember that? That was the big thing. Everybody had a bookie. You
Oh
went and
yeah.
you placed bets with your bookie. It was so shady, though, that you never did it out in the open. And it was so hard to do to find a bookie to begin with. And they're like, you knew your life was at stake, right? So, so you're not going to overstep your boundaries as much as you can help it. But now it's as easy as a couple of clicks and boom, like your bet is made. And I don't like it, Mark. I don't like it one bit.
I get it. I really do. I got to tell you though, Matt, where I grew up, you couldn't throw a stone without hitting a bookie. And that's just me where I grew up. Yeah. But it was like, some small town. I didn't really feel like any hustle was going on or wasn't like big numbers.
Mm.
Uh, but it has gotten to be, like you said, transitioning that small amount there or for just some shady back room to where we're seeing how they are going after people. And even in the stadiums, I was looking at earlier today, was it Cattell Marte? He was at Bat in Chicago, and somebody started saying things about his mother who's deceased. It's like, what is it with these people? I mean, I understand you want to wave if your guys are batting or pitching and you wave your towels and you're expecting that you're going to make some kind of impact on the pitcher and that kind of silliness is being part of the team. But standing there and saying terrible things to someone or their family or harassing them and threatening to behead them, break into their homes and behead them, it's just insane. And on that one article from Athlon Sports, they quoted the Pew Research Center saying there's been let's see, 41% of US adults have personally experienced some form of online harassment. And this gambling piece, you put these two together because I think that's what the author was trying to say in there, is you bring these two elements together and it just magnifies it. It can makes the situation untenable to somebody like Shildt winds up resigning.
Yeah. It's the other part I want to say is that the advertising of sports gambling is just getting to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like you can't go on Facebook, YouTube, any site, any game that you put on, there's a an ad that'll pop up. There's a few ads, there's a few companies, and God forbid you happen to click on that by mistake, and then boom, it'll be across the board on all the websites that
Oh
you've opened
Lord.
for an eternity. It's one of the things we did in Canada. I can remember as a kid, and this is when smoking was starting to get to be the bad guy. Is the one of the first things they did is they said Formula One, all sports, they are not allowed to advertise smoking because it was bad for your health. Well, gambling is bad for your health, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is for your mental health, for your physical health, for your kids' health, for your family's health, for your community's health. So, sports gambling ads should be banned. That is the next step. And you know what? I'll start a petition if I have to, and I'll put it out there in Canada so that people can actually sign on because like I said, there's no good that comes of it. If you want to be somebody that, takes a Bristol board out and creates some of those grids for the Super Bowl, right? Where everybody buys a square for $2 and you do and it's fun and it's a one-time event that's great. That's fine. You want to be with your buddies in the bar and bet $50 on a game? That's fine. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the systematic, um, gambling that where you end up giving up significant amounts of your salary and it grows over time and it gets more addictive, and as you keep chasing the amount it gets worse and worse. And then so the behavioral part that you're talking about, though, I think that is more social media centric. So from 2012 to 2015, what they noticed is that people have more anxiety that is social media based because
Yeah.
everybody started to get disconnected from their feelings. They weren't exposed to the same kinds of interactions as they used to, like on, in playgrounds and parks, and taking as many risks and building up their confidence and learning through social interactions that were physical or personal in nature. Instead, they were doing it all online. And so I think it's more of that aspect where everything is abrupt, everything is 100 miles an hour, and they feel like they're invincible. And in those cases, like the for teens, for example, a lot of states, a lot of provinces, a lot of countries have come up with laws that are anti-bullying, that are anti this, anti that. So you need to do the same for players. And really, the leagues need to be the advocates of that, right? They need to be the ones enforcing. It used to be like almost laughed at and comical to people. Oh, wait until you go into Philly and people will yell all kind of obscenities at you. Or the same thing in the outfield in Yankee Stadium. Should that really be allowed? Is it something that you would actually do in church? And so what makes it okay? Like, and what example are you showing to the population around you? Like, it's time for us to actually gain some respect for ourselves and actually behave like normal human beings
Thank you.
and realize that we're not above and beyond these players, and they're not certainly not above and beyond us. And we need to have a respectful relationship. If you went into spring training and you're yelling all these obscenities, people would look at you and think that you're crazy. Like, because everybody's there to have a good time. The
Yeah.
mood is relaxed. There's no sports gambling going on, yet on spring training. And so that's the kind of atmosphere, the positive energy, the kind of interactions that allow you to get closer to players, and they'll want to be closer to you because you're not, yelling obscenities at them. And then so you're building core memories for everybody at that point that they'll remember the rest of their lives. Well, do the same through the year. Like, build the league that you want to have with nothing but positives in it as much as you can help it.
I think probably on the back of a ticket when you go in there, if there was such a thing as a back of a ticket anymore, on your electronic ticket, there's maybe something in there as far as code of conduct about where you can smoke and where you can't smoke. What signage in some places now you can't bring. If I had a hat with a certain message on it that was a political, then I probably wouldn't be allowed into some stadiums and such. And that's their rules. And they hold those up. And to be able to expect a certain behavior of a fan, I think is realistic. Uh, I think some fans, I know some of them that where they're saying, okay, well, you can't come to our ballpark again for this year. Maybe that's it. Oh, okay, well, maybe, and you've done something terrible. Well, that particular person can't come back ever again. And that's nothing. I mean, there's times where you're threatening somebody and their family and you walk away from that with, oh, you can't buy a ticket from me anymore? No, no, that just gets to be stupid. And pardon me, but I can't think of a better way to explain it that we don't have better measures. But it goes back to what you're saying, man. Just being good people, be respectful of one another. Uh, but you had this gentleman who was doing this back in 2019 with the Rays, and his name, what would I say, was geez, hang on here. His nickname was Parlay, like you're parlaying a bet. Yeah, that's dangerous right there. You know that person's already got problems in their life when their nickname is Parlay. So I don't know. Jeez Louise, man. So if you let me know if you get that, I know you're up there in north of our border or your border, south of our, whatever. I'm south of yours. Anyway, if you work up a petition up there in your province, I'd love to hear what comes back because I think it's worth putting something out there, boys and girls, to hold fans accountable and people accountable in these
Going to
games.
be a steep hike, Mark, and I'll tell you why. Because if you look back at let's say the 1950s, right? The government was, and governments in general were anti-alcohol, anti-tobacco, anti-this, anti-that. Eventually, they learned how to make money from tobacco by taxing it like crazy. Eventually, they got to be in control of alcohol, and that most of the establishments in Canada are actually government run. So they own alcohol and cigarettes and marijuana now because marijuana is
Ooh.
legal. They're all government owned and run, the majority anyway. And then gambling is also government owned. And they say, oh, we put that money back in the communities. Yeah, sure. Sure you do. Show me the receipts, Mark. I want to see the receipts and I want to know where it's coming from and where it's going to.
Yeah.
But that's not the way it's going to happen. But that's besides the point, right? I think just using that example, they treat cigarettes a certain way, and they even put these god awful pictures on these cigarette packs, right, to scare the daylights out of you so that you don't smoke. They have all these warnings now on alcohol bottles and on beer bottles about, the impacts and the links to cancer and all that kind of stuff. So they need to treat gambling the same way and put all
Yeah.
kinds of warnings and restrictions on it. So I do think that sports is in jeopardy in that front because it could get out of hand in a hurry, even from a league point of view, because we all know like you can say that they can hire security and make sure that everybody's going to be safe. This isn't that level of security, right? This is a different level of pressure and mafia links, and it's not something that you can easily step over and be comfortable with when you go home and you're with your family and you're driving your car home, and you're always looking over your shoulder at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel for people making those calls, making those decisions, the referees and umpires in all these games, and they get yelled at and have obscenities thrown at them just as much as the players do. So I don't know, Mark. Like not only are you taking a lot of their roles away in a lot of these sports by having all the reviews and everything else, but you're adding these kinds of pressures on as well. Like I don't know. They don't get paid enough in my book.
Well, we just get rid of all the human factor together. We do all robo ump. They make all the calls, no human being. So it'll be somebody instead of you can't intimidate a human being and trying to intimidate a computer. Have to learn how to hack into that computer. And okay, that was a ball after all.
Well, you bring up a good point, Mark. So, what's to say you can't hire a hacker to infiltrate the systems in New York
Yeah.
and alter the video that is presented to the person making that call? You know,
Ooh.
AI can do all of that in a heartbeat, like before in a nanosecond before you can even recognize any of it. So, when are we going to get to that point where we can't even trust the video feed that is coming from the feed into that review booth?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's another risk factor right there that nobody talks about, but it's real. So if I put a lot of money on a game and I can control that aspect in terms of the video and alter things, I can become a billionaire, Mark. I'm pulling all the strings. And I'm just a 14-year-old kid sitting on the edge of my bed. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that it is some scary stuff. Watch out for movie of the week, folks. That's going to be it next time. Uh, oh, goodness gracious. Well, we'll step back from the pit for a little bit
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I agree. The Blue Jays are losing 2-0 right now in the top of
Oh,
the third. So just so you know that what's going on as we're talking, Randy Arozarena kicked it off with a walk, and Julio Rodriguez once again is the catalyst for the Mariners. Hit a two-run bomb. So yeah, they're rolling.
all right. Well, I got to tell you, Matt, the beginning of the year, if it wasn't going to be us, I would have pulled for the Orioles or the Blue Jays.
Mhm.
And even till recently, when I saw that Seattle is there and they've never been to the World Series, I've got to pull for Seattle. I think you already were. I'm slowly catching up with you on that.
Yeah, I was hoping for a Brewers Mariners from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I know the Mariners have a lot of. Oh, Andres Jimenez just hit a homer, so it's 2-1 now. Or 2-2. Sorry, it was a two-run shot. So there you go. It's a tie game. So yeah, the Brewers and Mariners to me would just be an awesome World Series. Number one, because you have the Bob Uecker background story on the Brewers
Yeah.
side of things. They would be knocking off the behemoth of the Dodgers, which is they need to be hitting them out by somebody at some point. And then you also have two teams that have never won it all, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, you're just really happy for whoever wins it, and even for whoever loses it, that they got to the World Series. So it would be a really good feel good World Series. I'll take the Blue Jays in there as well. They've only won two. It's not like they have a handful. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, because I was thinking AL East, and if we look back at our own history, we're not there. We're looking at the X-rays out there to see. I know we got Jake Bowers with Milwaukee,
Hmm.
and who else? Randy's with Seattle. Luke Raley's with Seattle.
Yep.
And then if you go to the Dodgers, you got two powerhouses there on the mound that I think of immediately. And
Yep.
both of those guys, Tyler Glass now, and then seeing, my gosh, Blake Snell, game one, kicking it. Okay. I would almost become a Dodgers fan just because Blake was on the mound. I mean, it was that game I would have had to just, it was amazing. I mean, I watched it, like the next day. It was just amazing to see what he was able to achieve. And it's interesting too, because Dave Roberts let him run for 8 innings, right? How the heck did that happen? And then the next night, Dave Roberts, or the next game, Dave Roberts has Yamamoto on the mound, and he pitches an entire game, 111 pitches, 112. I'm not sure which, but my gosh, what the heck is going on in this game of baseball? Jeez, Manitli.
And it's fair to say that the Brewers' game plan definitely needed to be better, but they're usually a contact, long at bat kind of lineup. That's how they wear people down normally. So it was out of sorts, and their manager sort of pointed to the Cubs series wearing them down and really having their emotions way too high and being over aggressive. I think the same thing happened with the Blue Jays, where they got through the team that they hated most in the league, in the Yankees, and now it was a little bit of a letdown when they got to the Mariners. So sometimes it takes a little bit to get back into the series, but that's why I love the 7 game series, because it gives you time to get back into it, to fight your way back, and then really, the best team should come out of it. There's a couple of other X-rays I want to mention. Miles Mastroboni is also with the Mariners, and he's on the roster right now. And Milwaukee added Tobias Myers to their roster as well. So two more X-rays to keep an eye on. And of course, Matt Arnold is the GM of the Brewers, so that's another X-rays link. And
Wow.
Andrew Friedman is the president of the Dodgers. So there's a lot of Rays influence in this playoffs still. And another one that everybody misses is Nathan Lukes or Lucas, right? He was with the Rays in their system forever. And he was one of those guys, a little bit like Bob Seymour, where he was a late bloomer,
Hmm.
but he never got a look with the Rays. And now maybe they regret not having a longer look because of the professional at bats he provides. And, he's hitting in a two hole for, a decent lineup. Yeah, he's an example of it's worthwhile to give everybody a look so that you know what it is you're passing on
Yeah.
once they leave, if you can help it.
I got to tell you, this pregame, I'm turning the TV on. I got the sound down the other day, and it was the Brewers. I says, "Is that Bill Belichick?" I'm looking out there. I'm sorry, Pat Murphy, but when you're out there with a hoodie and you got the sleeves cut off, and you're of a certain age. Now, I didn't see a 19-year-old girl on his shoulder or anything like that, but I thought, is that Bill Belichick? And
Yeah.
I have no room to talk. I tell you that
He
much.
almost owns that look, eh? And it's
Yeah.
a little bit,
Yeah. That's funny. Hey, I tell you what is funny is that the Savannah Bananas have wrapped up their season and they are planning for 2026. And let's see, what's the numbers here? It's going to be, if you want a ticket, don't wait for the scalpers. You can go to Savannah Bananas website and they have a lottery. The cutoff is October 31st, so you better get moving. And they are on a 45 state tour, Matt. They're adding teams. They've got, they used to just have the party animals and they added the firefighters as their opposition. So I don't know how many of these, if there's going to be a couple of bananas teams as well against these guys, but there's 75 stadiums and they anticipate 3.2 million. Is that all of MLB last year? 3.2 million. And as far as people are going to come and see those games, and some of them there's going to be, let's see, 14 are going to be at MLB stadiums, 10 are going to be at football stadiums, and two of which have a capacity of more than 100,000.
wow. So
Wow.
when did they start? When did the Savannah Bananas have their first year in action?
Geez, I don't think it's been 10 years yet. Let's see, let's do a quick check here because I am not sure.
2015. So it's
There you
been
go. Oh,
10
right at
years
10.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
How much do you think they're worth?
Oh, geez.
Their net
More, you couldn't pay Jesse Coe enough. I
worth.
cannot, cannot even begin. But like a lot of things, we figure some bubble will pop at some point. But he's doing everything he can to make this happen and not make it a flash in the pan. I mean, he's expanded so many different places he's come to. Heck, they're tearing up football fields to make a baseball field for him.
He's
You know,
turning them into the baseball version of the Harlem Globetrotters, and the Harlem Globetrotters are still going around. I almost went to see them again. They came to Nova Scotia. They're still active. They're still going around. So they're valued at $15 million. Now, I don't know what the majority of AAA teams in the minors are worth, but I'm telling you right now, very few of them would get $15 million as a valuation.
yeah.
So it's one of those things where he's taken nothing basically and grown it to be, a cash cow. And I'm pretty sure that his own income exceeds the 15 million. So I think if he was to actually put it up for auction, let's say, and retain a role in doing exactly what he's doing, he could probably get closer to 40 to 50 million for it. More than
Yeah.
likely, if somebody really wanted to purchase it and hammer it out the way that they think they could. But I love the fact that he's drawing attention to just going out there and having fun. And we were talking to Jane last week, and I was thinking, Brett Phillips needs to come back to the Rays, and he needs to be that baseball is fun again. And if Brett retired and wants to have a little fun, he needs to be part of that action with the Savannah Bananas because he just fits that mold better than anybody I know. And on top of it, he's a great dancer, so all those routines they put on, you know, he could probably add his own spin on a couple of things and heighten their performances up a little bit.
I'd love to see that. You're right. He would be a perfect fit. Everything about him. I mean, he's just so energetic and the positivity he brings out there. Jesse Cole, going back to this overall to the bananas, Jesse Cole, the guy who created all this stuff, the man in the yellow tuxedo with the yellow bowler, he is the bananas energy too, because if he and his wife hadn't put all of this together, if they hadn't continued to build this presence and awareness and still own the product. You remember that they still own the product, man. That's that says a lot, Matt. So I go getting back to you. I'd love to see Brett Phillips there. Oh gosh. Well, having Jane here last week was an absolute blast. That lady, she's something else in the depth of her understanding of the game. And there's a lot to be said about trying to make this game more fun, and Brett's certainly doing that. I'm doing some homework because of some of the things we talked about last week and trying to find ways we can do that, even just maybe here in Tampa.
Mhm.
I feel like the new ownership is definitely has that mentality, and certainly Ken Babby with his experience with the Jumbo Shrimp and the Akron Rubber Ducks. So let's keep baseball fun. Let's not get caught up in all this gambling stuff. I would strongly persuade anybody there who's even thinking about that part of the game, step away from it. And it's another reason, Matt, why I always talk about going to see the minor league games and the community games, because if there's any betting done there, it's like you're saying, somebody putting down a few bucks, with a neighbor down there. They're not going through some organized gambling organization. So, yeah.
The 50-50 draw is all you should be gambling on in those games, right?
Yeah. But do the 50-50 draw. I'm with you, brother.
Yeah.
Oh, any other things we need to uncover you would like to talk about?
I think the big one, I rewatched the Erik Neander news conference at the end of the year. And because sometimes you watch it the first time, you have all these feelings from the season, yada yada
Yeah.
yada, and all this baggage, and you don't really want to believe what's being said, and you don't really pick up all the little things that are said during the conference. And I just want to say that I think the Rays this year more than ever are cognizant of what it is they need to fix.
Mm.
Like the little slight about saying we need more production from the outfield, we need more of this, we need more of that, yada yada yada. All the little things that were noted in that, almost off the cuff on the side, so fast that you barely catch it during the news conference. I think the Rays are sort of subliminally telling other teams like this is what we're looking for. Like we're you know we're going to be on the hunt. And again, within the budget that they have, they're not going to blow anything out of the water. They're not going to chase the huge free agents.
No.
But I think, uh, the way things are leading to a positive realm, and believe it or not, what Stu did in terms of handing everybody a lot of money in terms of bonuses on his way out is going to relax the atmosphere a lot in Tampa. All those people that are usually on edge, don't know if they're going to have their jobs or not, don't know when the next paycheck is coming, if they do lose their jobs, yada, 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 are all going to be a little bit more relaxed and are going to be able to focus a little bit more. And they're going to realize that, holy crap, our work is actually appreciated sometimes. And sometimes there's a payout because of it, right? So the vibes are good. You're going to get back into the trop. I'm curious to see what they do with Evan Longoria and whether or not what kind of offers they make to him in terms of a role with the team. Do they retire the number? Do they, um, do they actually, give him a bench role and say, okay, you're now the bench boss? Do they instead decide to have him part of the coaching staff in AAA first? And is he willing to do that? There's a lot of coaching and kind of things that I'm hoping they'll change all the way through the organization, and especially when it comes to the hitting side of things. But then I see in the news that Taylor Walls is a nominee for the Gold Glove Award. And I'm sitting there. Not only did he miss a lot of time this season, but I watched him, Mark, and the inconsistencies of his play this year more than ever. I'm shaking my head and I'm going, okay, well, how bad is it at shortstop in the American League right now for him to actually get that, nod?
Yeah.
Like it has to be pretty fierce because I get it. The skills are there. Don't get me wrong. If he's playing his A game and he's having his best season, he's probably an elite, defensive shortstop and can actually earn a gold glove. But I didn't think it was this year. So my fears are the Rays will sit on that and go, okay, we'll give him the money that he's supposed to get paid next year. I think it's 2.4 million or something like that. And they'll keep him around. They'll give him playing time and they'll, hope that he rubs shoulders with Carson Williams and keep him loose and whatever. So I'm fearful that a lot of the mistakes that have been made over the last 2 years will keep happening because of
Mm.
their traditional defense first, bat second, plug away, try to eat away runs, yada yada yada. So I guess that's what my point is I'm looking for new blood to be brought into the organization, and I don't know who that's going to be. But something needs to get shaken.
Yeah, yeah. There's no doubt. Yeah, and this is the time to do it. And looking at what you're saying about Taylor not having the greatest year, I'd really like to think that the front office looks beyond Rawlings' Golden Glove nomination as far as an assessment of what your shortstop should be achieving out there. If that's the measurement that they're using, we're in trouble because if you start looking at what's like everything else, you have to be able to assess with your own eyes, and certainly that's the demand that the fans expect of the front office and the scouts and everybody else who they're fielding. So I know a lot of people have some love for Taylor Walls. I think he's a wonderful guy. I've enjoyed seeing him with the team. But you and I, this last season, have been over looking for trades. We've been looking for a lot of things with him, and quite honestly, I think that Wander Franco's ghost is still lingering because of that. It's like he's not there. Yeah, I know he's not there. It's Halloween, boys, and girls. But so who was going to come in and be Wander Franco? Nobody. So the expectation for Walls shouldn't be that level, and I don't think it is, but it should be higher than what we have right now.
Right. Like I'm talking if he's 10% worse than league average. So that would mean about a 90% or 90 WRC plus. So weighted runs created, right? That's about being 10% under. But he was 40% under, Mark. He was a 60 WRC plus. So I mean, again, it's like having a pitcher in the lineup, and it's
Yeah.
certainly not worthwhile. So I pleaded for them to use him only on one side of the plate. They never did. They keep letting him switch hit. I'm like, if it's not working as a switch hitter, that should be a rule across the league. If the player is not better by switch hitting, he no longer switch hits. End of story, right? I'm sorry, right? But if you're 40% below league average while you're switch hitting, any normal coach, right, through the minors would say, hey, buddy, pull him aside. You may want to pick a side and see
Yeah.
how it goes, right? That's just I'm not a baseball guru by any means in terms of like how the mental aspect of things works out. And I realize there's a period of time where yeah, you have to grow into it, and there's very few Chipper Jones out there that can do it, at a high level from the get-go. But I think the Rays need to raise the bar when it comes to hitting performances on their team and hold
Right.
people accountable. And that comes with competition, and that includes Josh Lowe, who needs to, you know, he needs to be revisited in terms of whether or not he has a role in this team as well. Um, Chris Morrell, a whole bunch of other ones in the outfield. So that's why I say that Erik Neander's comment about the outfielder needing to be more productive in each case, despite highlighting Chandler Simpson's value to the team and what he did out there, which was
Mhm.
outstanding. So there's positives in there. It's not all negatives by any means. But what it did, Mark, and this is what Erik pointed to in that conference, was all those marginal games where they could have come out on top, where they could have gotten the lead back, where they could have made good on opportunities. They didn't because people didn't step up in those moments, like all, in key areas. Even though the Rays had a really good, strong run differential and you could see the potential was there and a lot of key pieces were in place, they never could push ahead consistently to actually win a lot of the games that they used to win in the early 2020s because they just didn't have the balance through the lineup to actually get it done consistently.
Well, I like that you're reading the tea leaves after watching Erik speak again and seeing what he's putting out there, putting out little hints of what the Rays are looking for, and being able to assess it. That's very cool, Matt. So I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see.
So the Jays took a 5-2 lead over the Mariners, and it looks like they might be able to pull out a win there, get things a little bit more balanced. So we'll see how it
Good,
goes.
good.
It's only
Yeah.
the third though.
It's going to be an interesting World Series or the teams that are going to get there. And I thought it was so funny last week when we had Jane on here and she's a Yankees fan. And during during our conversation, there was a few groans and moans, and she gave us a few of the plays, but you could tell she was suffering. And we left her before the game was over. But that was
Just on that note, I do have to ask you, what are your thoughts on Sandy Koufax? First of all, retiring early, and second of all, saying he doesn't watch the game.
that struck me hard because this is a man who's an icon of the game, and I almost wondered, did you really want to tell us that, Jane? Did did you really want to tell us that? That's
He loved the game is my first question. Like, or did he only like it exactly in that way that he played it, and that's
yeah.
it? He won't tolerate anything else, and then that intolerance for any change is sad to me because it takes you away from the sport and the opportunity to enjoy all the moments. So imagine right now, like, um, what's his name? Dusty Baker, right?
Yeah.
Stepped away from the game for a long period of time. He came back. He won a, World Series with the National. Imagine if he had treated baseball the same way and never watched it again. He said, this is all manure and I'm not taking part in it. All those moments and relationships that he would have missed along the way and the highlights of his life that he's had to do all the way through. It saddens me for him
Yeah.
that Sandy Koufax can't come out of his bubble and be open to new things. That really, really made me sad for him.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I also respect the idea that there are purists out there in anything. Oh, I agree. I'll go ahead, cringe, folks. You may not say Matt is cringing right now, and yeah, there are purists out there in certain things, and I they don't allow an evolution. There's even if you have musical styles, if you have a musical artist, suddenly do they play that one type of music? Are there only a certain number of chords that they're going to use throughout the rest? They limit themselves. They become a specialist and they do great at it, but they don't get to enjoy all of the music that way. And I think that's what you're probably seeing with Sandy, but he likes those few chords that he's playing. He's like that, and I don't think he sees the potential for joy beyond that.
You remember the running back for the Detroit Lions that stepped away from the game really early? He was like
Hmm.
I can't remember his name for the life of me. But he was just a dumb Barry Sanders, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He retired extremely young, walked away from the game, never was seen or heard from again. Like all of those years afterwards, because of whatever he reasons that he had, the same kind of deal where you just I don't know. You think about all the hours and all the time that he spent with his family, with his dad, his kids that I imagine he has a family and that, they're growing up and that now is he not allowing or he's not sharing any baseball memories with them. So they're not watching baseball together. He's not sharing his wisdom. He's not taking them to the park, honest, obviously. So a huge part of his life is just here. Watch the tapes of me playing baseball. This is the way it's supposed to be played. And that's it. That's all you get to enjoy with me. After that, if you want to go off and watch it on your own, that's great. No, there's something selfish about that and very
Hmm.
close-minded that I don't like. It's
I
not,
thought you were sad for him. Now you sound like
yeah, well, it really comes off that way.
yeah.
And it's not, I'm not saying you have to agree with it. That is a completely different thing. I get the animosity through a lot of the changes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get the way that hitting is taught is atrocious. I get that, they're valuing hitting homers way more than they need to. Yada yada yada. I think most of us are on that boat anyway. But it doesn't mean that we're going to avoid the game.
No.
Like that's what struck me. I don't understand it. I don't I get okay, not saying you're not going to go watch 162 games of a team. Maybe you'll take your kids to one game, you'll take your kids to two games, whatever it is, right? But to say that's it, I don't watch the game at all. I'm done. I don't know.
Well, let's hope that not necessarily
in secret. I hope that he watches in secret.
Yeah, I do too. I was kind of hoping maybe there was almost like a flip remark. They said, "I don't watch the damn thing anymore."
Yeah.
Is the soap opera on yet? Yeah, okay. Oh gosh. Well, we love the game, and otherwise we wouldn't be here sharing it with you, boys and girls. Matt, as always, it's a joy, my friend. And folks, I hope your team wins the World Series because mine's not. We've got our favorites, and we always love to hear from you about yours. Share your love of the game with us. You can find Matt and I both on Blue Sky. Just one last thing, I went back to look at X, and I thought about spending a little more time there, and I put my foot in the water, and I said, no, no. So you'll find me on Facebook and Blue Sky, as well as Matt. We'll put that at the end of the notes of the show. So I want to thank you all again for joining us here today. And Mr. Matt, you want to roll us out? Any other last remarks?
No, enjoy the playoffs. Watch
right.
the games, watch the highlights, however you can, and enjoy whoever ends up winning it. Even though it might be the Dodgers, just enjoy it a little bit.
All right. Okay. Well, once again, thank you all for joining us here today on Baseball Biz on Deck. And we will be back here next week. Take care and enjoy the World Series. Bye.
Just a reminder, you can find Matt at matgermain.bsky social. That's at mattgermain.bsky.social or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bsky.social. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on iHeart, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Special thanks to XTakeRUX for the music, Rocking Forward.